Hi, I'm James Daly, and this is the Exway X1 Riot. Exway's X1 board is their flagship board. There are a couple of different configurations. The Riot, this one here, is their belt-driven component. You can see the belt motors there. Having belt motors on this particular board means more torque, more acceleration, higher top speeds, the ability to use different wheels, and that, familiar electric skateboard whine. I'll be breaking this review into two main parts, things I love and things I don't really love. Pros and cons, basically. Things I've learnt after owning and riding the board, and that may be useful to you if you're considering buying the Exway X1 Riot. Let's get into it. Let's start with the unboxing experience. This is really nice. Your first experience with a new product is always incredibly important, and this begins with how it feels to actually open the box. All parts come nicely presented in custom cut foam. The board itself fits really snugly, and the first impression here is of quality and thoughtful design. Now, the most important thing, once we do get riding, how does it feel to ride? I haven't experienced an electric skateboard with flex before. I've really only ridden this boosted Mini X here. The best way I can describe it is it's like going to a luxury car. It's incredibly smooth to ride, really comfortable to ride. The extra size here, the longer board, the larger wheels, they work really well to disperse any bumps, any cracks, any vibrations in the road. The road vibration over whichever surface I'm riding on hasn't been an issue whatsoever. The power and acceleration has been really impressive as well. Overall, it's been a very premium feeling ride. The acceleration curve is nice, there's no jerkiness, and just everything I would normally hesitate to ride over, or I would feel a lot of issues riding over on other boards, this handles very smoothly. It's just smooth. This is the word I keep coming back to. It's a very smooth ride. This shock absorbing layer underneath the grip tape here does a lot to help with this as well. It makes it feel like the board is securely under your feet at all times, rather than kind of dancing and vibrating under your feet. It's a really nice touch having that shock absorbing here, that layer there. When you first turn the board on, you'll notice it's in a beginner mode. I actually think this is really nicely done. What they do is they kind of cap your top speed until you've ridden X amount of kilometers, basically so that you're not immediately jumping onto mode 4, hitting 45 k's an hour the very first time you step on one of these. It's just fast enough to still be enjoyable while you're riding, but it's still slow enough that you feel completely in control while you're getting used to how the board works. And it's just hidden enough away in the app to turn off that you do use that beginner mode. I mean, I've been riding electric skateboards for quite a while now, but even I, when I first turned this on, thought, gee, this is a really nice way to get used to the, quirks of a new board without feeling unsafe at all. I think they've done that really well, especially if it's your first time on an electric skateboard. To turn it off though, you just go into the app, go into the settings, turn off beginner mode, and you're off and riding. Okay, one of my favorite features of this board, standby mode. This means that you can power it on and off just from using the remote. You don't need to be bending down, flipping over the board, holding down the power button, flipping it over again, and then getting on. This is how I think all electric skateboards should be working. You turn on the remote then turns on the board, you turn off the remote turns off the board. Makes perfect sense. I love what they've done here. All right, next pro, the portability. Now, that sounds strange because this is a long board, it's a larger board, but hear me out here, because this is one of my favorite things about this board. There is no giant battery underneath here. It's slim, it's perfectly slim here, which means that coupled with the weight distribution when you pick up this board, it's nice to hold. It's easy to pick up like that and kind of move around in your arms and hold under your arm. There's no big battery here to get in the way when you hold it against your hip. The grip tape itself as well is a lot smoother than other boards. It doesn't feel like it's harshly ripping into your skin or your clothing. It's the perfect balance between being grippy but still being really nice to hold. So this board's actually, out of all the ones I've tried, the nicest and easiest to carry around. And because of that, I've been reaching for it more often than I reach for my boosted Mini X when I go for rides, just because I know that when I need to pick it up and carry it during my ride, it's a pleasure to do so. The surface underneath is nice and smooth, nothing digs into you. The weight distribution is nicely balanced, so yeah, picking it up and carrying it is just perfect. I loved it. That may seem like a small thing, but these boards weigh 6 to 8 kilos normally. And when you take them out and you go riding, you are going to need to carry them at a certain point. So how they feel to pick up, carry, and hold is incredibly important to your overall enjoyment of an electric skateboard. So I think they've done a really good job there. All right, the next pro follows on from what we just talked about. This is an elegant looking board. The fact that there isn't a huge bulge underneath for the motor and the battery, the fact that everything is hidden away inside the deck, the fact that it's all black, it's just a really nicely designed board. And this extends to how it looks while you're riding it. It looks minimal, it looks fast, it looks sleek because it is that thin. It seems to accentuate the power of an electric board by virtue of the fact that everything's hidden. You know, you see someone zoom off on a fast electric board, but they've got, you know, a giant belt motor stuck on the back and a big battery underneath, and, you know, there's whirring parts everywhere, and you think, oh, okay, yeah, that's why it's going that fast. But you see someone take off on something this slim with that much power, that's a nice combination. That speaks to really good design in my mind. So it looks really nice leaning against a wall or in your room. It looks really nice while being ridden. Design, top marks there. Really nice. All right, next pro, the remote. This is very, very nearly a perfect skateboard remote. The screen is basically my favorite thing about it. It's being able to see the actual battery percentage of your board and the remote and the speed you're going and the mode you're in, and be able to switch between them all just with a single button is, it's very well done, and it's all the key information that I personally would want to see while I'm riding a board. Like being able to quickly look down and see how fast I'm going, or if I need to charge anything. It's great. The only thing I would say this needs is it a kill switch? Is that what it's called? What the boosted remote has. This here, an engage button, that's what we'll call it. It would prevent any sort of accidental acceleration or roll of the wheel here if you had one of these little kill switch engage buttons that you need to hold down before you can roll the motor forward. I've had one or two incidents of it being in my pocket, it getting bumped, and the board kind of just woo, out of nowhere. So if that was added on here, I would say we'd have a perfect electric skateboard remote. Okay, next pro, the ability to swap out the belt wheels, the belt motor, for hub motors. I love options. I think that's fantastic to have. I mean, a lot of people prefer having the belt motors on here just for that added speed. And I know that was an addition later on that they've added to this board. But having the ability to swap out if you want something a little bit more discreet or quieter, that's great. Like, the more options we have, the better. I'd love to see more modularity when it comes to electric skateboards. Maybe the type of battery that's attached. I think Inboard used to do something like that where you could easily swap out the batteries. But being able to change how the motor works or what type of motor you have on your electric board is fantastic. And I would love to one day try out the hub motor on this board and see how that changes the ride experience and how it feels to use and carry and ride. So yeah, big pro there. Okay, this next pro is pretty major. I probably should have had it further up the list, but the power and the speed and the acceleration on this is wonderful. I mean, it has a top speed, I think, of 45 kilometers an hour, which is just pretty excessive. But what I really like about it is that it feels comfortable and safe at all of those speeds. Some of the other electric boards I've ridden, you get near that top speed and you start to kind of pull back a bit. You feel like, oh, this might be a bit too fast in terms of control. Whereas the Exway's, I guess, comfort level while you're riding it, you feel so secure on there that it invites you to go faster. You want to hit that top speed. You want to go even faster because you feel safe and comfortable on the board. So that acceleration is fantastic. The ability to customize the acceleration in the app is also great. Top speed is great. Comfort while riding is great. It's a fast board and it performs very well. Lastly, this might be a personal thing to me, but I love the sound it makes. It's less of a harsh whine and more of a comfortable whir, if that makes sense. It's not as loud and harsh and ear-piercing as some of the other boards might be. It's more of a muted, comfortable, powerful whine or a whir. It's nice, it's a good sound, I like it. Okay, let's move on to the cons, the things I didn't love so much. Now the first one is something that I'm finding a little bit irritating. It's the placement of the charging port underneath here. Now you'll notice The port's actually hidden kind of underneath the belt motors here. It's very hard to get to. Like, here's your power button, then under here further is your charging port. I know this placement is probably a remnant of the board originally supporting a hub motor, so these motors wouldn't be here. But with Exway selling the X1 Riot as a flagship product, kind of their top of the line board, I would have hoped something as important as the charging port placement would have been considered. It's a nightmare trying to attach the magnetic cable to the port and trying to get it in there so it attaches, especially as the cover here is also magnetic, so it's always kind of sticking back to cover the port. It's fiddly, and it could definitely be improved. The magnetic port is a great idea, but unfortunately it's overshadowed by it being hidden underneath the motors here and very hard to get to. I know you can flip the placement of the motors and have them on the back here, but it's something that you shouldn't have to do just to be able to comfortably charge your board. Next con. For me, the board has been struggling with hills slightly. The acceleration and power is great on flat ground, but some of the hills I live around, hills that the boosted Mini X fly up with no issue, the Exways kind of had to work pretty hard to make it up. I was riding home the other day, up a hill I ride up very regularly. I was at 35% battery, and I tried to do a hill start, and the board didn't really get any faster than walking pace. And the motors were very hot after that as well. Whereas with the boosted Mini X on the same hill, you know, it just immediately engages, the acceleration picks up and it flies up the hill. My takeaway from my experience here is that the board is incredibly powerful on flat ground. The acceleration is great, the top speed is great. However, if you live in an area that has a lot of hills, or your regular ride has a lot of steep hills, it may start to struggle a little bit, especially at lower battery capacity. Keep that in mind. Okay, my takeaway here. So out of all these pros and cons, I feel that Exway have nailed two crucial components here: the ride comfort and the portability. In my mind, that's what sticks the strongest, and that's why I keep choosing to ride this over any other board that I have. It's so comfortable to ride, the top speed is so well managed and powerful, and I know that if I need to pick it up and carry it, it's just going to be simple and comfortable to do so without any hassles at all. I'd love to see some improvements over that hill performance and the placement of the port here, but Exway have done a great job with the main parts of this board. Enough so that it's, my new go-to electric board, and I'm riding it every chance I get. I'd love to try out the hub motors in a future video and see how that affects the board and the ride experience. But for now, that's been the Exway X1 Riot with the belt motors. And if you have any further questions, please let me know in the comments. I reply to everything, so anything I haven't answered that you've been wondering about this board, leave it in a comment, I'll get back to you there. Otherwise, I'd love it if you subscribe for more tech reviews like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.